one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you remain standing for a moment of silence as we remember Jane Weingart. Thank you.
Roll call. Trustee Downing?
Here.
Trustee Sprague?
Here.
Trustee Patton?
Here.
Trustee DiDonato?
Here.
Ryan?
Here.
And Trustee O'Malley?
Here.
Also present is Village Attorney John Patterson.
Okay, I'll start off with announcements, and they are all here. Where's our sheet? Oh, yes, it's here. Okay. All right, we've got a number of announcements. Veterans Day services will be held tomorrow, Wednesday the 11th, in the park, beginning at 11 a.m. So that'll be a very nice ceremony, so you have the opportunity. Please participate. Our next regularly scheduled village board meeting will be on December 8th at 6 o'clock, Tuesday. We are hopeful, and we are planning on a ribbon cutting ceremony on Monday, the 16th, at the transfer station. And that is to recognize the solar panels and the work that's been done up there. We have 1,900 solar panels in place. Once that is operational, and the work from Monolith's side of things, as far as I understand, is complete, the village will be getting 60% of its municipal electricity directly from the sun. And that's because of the landfill, the 2 water plants, and the little bit that we have here. And there's room to expand. And as the state allows expansion, we will certainly take a look at that. We are projecting an annual savings in electrical costs of about $60,000. It's a big number. So we're very pleased with that. And again, that's Monday at 11 o'clock. Still getting everything worked out on that. The next Hoosick Rising meeting will be on Tuesday, November 17th. That will be held at the Town Hall, and that will begin at 6 p.m. There's a Veterans Art Show, A People's History, will be held on Saturday, November 14th at the Armory. There are some flyers out, and they've been posted, and there's a lot of work that's being done by veterans, art pieces, so if you get the opportunity, stop by, take a look. I think you will enjoy it. The Bennington Battlefield State Historic Site will host a ceremony on Veterans Day, again tomorrow. That will begin at 1:30 at the Battlefield Summit. The battlefield will be open on Veterans Day from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the Hoosick area churches, Haka, will have a community Thanksgiving service that's going to be held at St. Mark's Church, and that's on Tuesday, November 24th, beginning at 7 p.m. Everyone is invited. For more information, there's a telephone number you can give a call. Folks are asked to bring a canned good so that they can utilize that and bolster up the food pantry a little bit and make it a little easier for folks during the holiday. And the village offices will be closed tomorrow, November 11th, in observance of Veterans Day. And make sure we got them all. Okay. That's it? Okay, we're good. Okay. People to be heard? Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Kevin Allard, 5421 State Route 7, Hoosick Falls, New York. Last month, I asked you about the testing that St. Gobain was doing.
Right.
You told me the test results would be in the next week.
No, I said I hope we would have them.
With everybody here,
Mhm.
That's good. If you're going to, I assume there's going to be a presentation here, water update, St. Gobain.
There is.
And is there going to be a question and answer period then? Because I'll hold them till then.
Yeah, we'll have a brief question and answer period.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else to be heard? Yes.
Chris Font, live on Center Street in the village. I was here last month about a dog issue.
Right.
I had the dog warden give me some paperwork to fill out, but has yet to be back. We're working on a month. She hasn't
Okay.
been back yet. So, I mean, this issue's going on in 2 months. So, I mean, what's the next step? I mean, it seems like she's not doing her job.
Okay, I'm not gonna go that far at this point in time, but I can certainly see that you're concerned about this and that a little bit of frustration there as well. So we will definitely follow up with the dog warden, find out what's going on, and either myself or the chief will get back to you directly, and we'll get that straightened out. Okay? And I apologize for the delay.
Alright.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, my name's Ron Hyde. I'm here to represent my brother Raymond, who has a house on Railroad Avenue. And he's concerned that the parking arrangement there may be changed,
Mm-hmm.
and that there would be less parking. And he would just like to voice his opinion that he needs his parking out in front of his
Okay.
house.
Okay, that's on the agenda. We're gonna be talking about that, so you'll have the opportunity to do
Okay,
that.
Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else to be heard? Okay. Treasurer's report.
Everything is consistent so far since June through October. Department heads are reminded that any large purchases that are not an emergency should check with Denise because the cash flow starts to get a little tight now until early spring. But everything else is pretty much in shape where we should be for this time of the year.
Okay. Any questions regarding the treasurer's report from the board? There being none, I ask for a motion.
Motion.
Bob?
Second.
Rick, second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. You should have all received the minutes from August 11 and October 13, 2 sets of minutes. Hopefully folks have had a chance to look those over. And is there a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, Ben and then Bobby. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are accepted. Oh, okay. Police report. Chief?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of jump over a lot of the type of calls. I'm just insane. We had 109 calls last month. We had a total of 7 arrests. One of them was for DWI, vehicle manslaughter, leaving the scene, personal injury, auto accident, some injuries to animals, and some criminal possessions of a controlled substance. We had a criminal possession of a weapon, reckless endangerment, assault, criminal contempt, arrest. We had a tough end of the month, beginning of the month, as you know, the fatality we had. The officers responded and I had to deal with that. Shortly after that, we had a serious unattended death here that resulted in an overdose of heroin. Something that took a lot out of the officers. We had the state police assist us on it. It took us a couple of days to get to the bottom of everything there. The officers, last Monday, I want to bring to everyone's attention. I know we have this issue about not going out of the village and going out of the village. There was a call that came out for a cardiac arrest up on 722 of the students. Officer Davik and Alexonis took it upon himself to respond. They started CPR. They were able to reverse it. Subject was transported to the hospital, and he survived. Direct result of the officers, as well as the EMO service getting there. So, you know, there's always good news, and always bad news. So, with that said, I think the officers did past month. They did a heck of a job here, along with all the other things that are going on. I know there's a lot of rumors that are going on about the accident. Rumors are only as good as the people they come from. I'm not trying to be mean when I say that. This is an active investigation that's continuing. It's in the hands of the district attorney's office right now. So it will continue, and we'll have some updates. I'll keep the mayor advised what's going on. If we get information back on Railroad Avenue, I want to discuss that with you later on. When it comes up, I think we got some good news to resolve that problem there, and I think we're all set.
Okay. Well, the particular recognition for the officers that were involved with the cardiac arrest. I mean, that you talk about good news. You can't get much better than that.
The officers, you know, we're all trained in that type of area. We're also trained in trying to reverse the heroin overdose, and they did it. They did what they were trained to do. We were able to get some kind of a pulse back, but unfortunately, the subject passed away in between Bennington get on the meds. So, as I said, they pushed last couple of weeks and they did a great job. So.
Okay. Any questions regarding the police report?
I'll make motion.
Is there a motion?
There must be somebody outside.
There's a question.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I had a couple questions actually about the police force, and please do not take offense.
You'll never. You want to hear this.
I don't want to be in the
Oh,
middle.
yeah.
We need to know who you,
Right,
if
stand
you
behind
could,
Well, the first thing is the heroin.
could you just give your name, please?
I'm sorry, my name is Angela Lawson,
And your residence, just for the record.
14 First Street.
Thank you. Go ahead.
First of all, I'm a concerned parent. I don't necessarily have a teenager that I'm concerned about in the village or the town of Hoosick Falls. But as far as the heroin overdose goes, the subject's family lives on my street. And it's terrifying knowing that that's on my street.
Mhm.
And I come here to tell you that I'm willing to do anything that I can to help you. And I know that I can get other parents to stand by my family. Something needs to be done, and the community, I'm sure, can come together. We come together for lots of things.
Okay.
This is such a small place that we don't need it here. We can push it away. We can drive them away from here. They don't need to be here. I know it's everywhere. I know. I watched the documentary on WMHT last night about April Park and WMHT, and I'm trying to do my homework on it. But it's very concerning.
Mhm.
A family friend that we grew up with, her son just passed away at 1 o'clock this afternoon from a heroin overdose. It's very sad, very sad.
Well, I don't take offense to that whatsoever.
I got
And
something,
and I-
I got something else.
Oh.
Not so fast, Bob.
As I stated, I live on First Street.
Mhm.
And I gotta say, it's not by choice. It's, my husband is the only one that works in the household. We have 3 children, one of them in college. I've worked my butt off to get there. I live there because it's low income and it's affordable for me. My neighbors are ridiculous. And I have called the police multiple times. I have even been instructed by Hoosick Falls Police Department to call 911 so it goes through dispatch.
Mhm.
And nothing has been done.
Okay.
Are you aware of how many times they were on our street last night?
And at 5 o'clock this morning,
The sheriffs came.
we were off duty. And at 5 o'clock this morning, the sheriffs responded and made the arrest on the subject, because at that point is when he did the damage to the residents. Prior to that, it was just the usual argument.
Prior to that, I'm talking 3 phone calls between 5:30 p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. I have a surveillance camera in my bedroom window because I'm sure everybody on the police force knows, because there's been complaints about it, to protect my stuff. We race go-karts with our children. That's what we do. We don't do drugs.
Mhm.
That's how I keep my kids off of drugs. And just to keep an eye on our equipment, we have cameras in our windows. So I have recordings from all night last night from the subject threatening me, calling me and my husband racial slurs. I told the officers and they did nothing about it
Last night.
last night. I called 911 twice. Not trying to,
No,
I didn't
please,
come here to beat you
No,
up,
no.
but
Oh.
I go to
And
work too,
I understand that.
I was late coming here because I had to wait for my husband to get home because I have a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old. I will not leave home alone because I don't know what these people are doing on my street.
Mhm.
Fed up with it.
And I think you were right to bring this to our attention, and it's something that we know about, not the specifics of your situation. But drugs are here, They are everywhere. Our police department works very hard. As the chief mentioned, there was an arrest made this morning. There are arrests made on a fairly regular basis, unfortunately,
Right.
because of the need. That has to be balanced between individual rights and the actual criminal act itself. But I would ask you to meet with the chief, not necessarily now, but at some point in time, because you're saying you would like to do something within your neighborhood. Maybe we can pull something together, and maybe we can do something. I'm sure we can if we get enough people interested, but it's a dangerous situation. We all know that. You see it in the news
I'll do whatever I
every
can to
night.
protect my friends, family,
Sure.
absolutely.
So if you will follow up with the chief, and we will see what we can pull together on that, okay? Thank
Next
you.
time, bring coffee.
Regarding the police report, is there a motion?
Yeah, I made a motion.
You did,
Second.
Bob? Okay, thank you. Ben, second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Before we get into code enforcement, just two quick things. Do we have any community services folks here, students? We got a couple, okay. Welcome to the meeting. Sorry not everybody got a seat. You're here as part of credit. It is required before graduation, so we welcome you. Hopefully you'll see some good things going on and you'll get an idea of how it operates. So again, welcome. Okay. Hold on that. All right. Code enforcement report.
Everybody should have a copy of the report. I've kind of settled into this report, I guess, a little bit. I hope it's working for everybody. I'll go over the things that are on here, but if there is more specifics or different information that you want to see, it is in flux. We can do whatever you want, but this is kind of what I've settled into for right now. So we're moving forward. It's busy. The office is very busy, getting a lot of calls.
Mhm.
We have people calling and asking questions. So there's some research involved and getting back to people and things like that. We're moving forward with the American House. So
We should have that on. Yeah,
it's
we've
been
got
very
that.
busy.
Okay. We'll talk a little bit about the American House as we get into old business. Okay. From the board, any questions? Is there a motion?
Quick
Nope.
question, I don't know.
Would
This
just
is
give
the
your name
police.
and address, please?
Joseph Nuccio, 148 Church Street. If I want to do something with a higher fence, do I bring that up here or do I talk to you?
Just
Okay.
talk to see him, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion?
Ben?
Second.
Second, Karen, thank you. For further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The report's accepted. Clerk's report?
Right now, we're working on the taxes for re-levy on the town tax. Water outside, it's on the agenda, I think, the amount that we sent down for the outside
Okay.
water. Records retention, we're going through the archives downstairs to see what we can get rid of. I think we're gonna, with the town, share the shredding and whatnot of all the papers that we can get rid of.
Okay.
Had two closings, yet one today, one yesterday, 4 sales in the past 30 days. And I also sent out streetlight reports to Kevin. So, we're busy.
Okay. Questions from the board? Is there a motion?
Motion.
Bob?
Second?
Rick? Second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is accepted. Community service report, not the same community services that you guys do. It's different. Okay, this is from October 15th to November 8th at 125 hours completed. Projects included detailing police cars weekly, cleaning the parks, mowing, raking leaves, weekly cleaning of the town office space, Hoosick baseball and softball fields, mowed, weeded, trimmed, picked up garbage and trash, tables and chairs, staging delivery, and some setup for the Center for Nursing and Rehab for their fundraiser that they had a couple of weeks back. And they also cleaned up the Southern Greenway Trail. So once again, community services hours that go through the courts are put to very good use in the town as a whole, okay, including the village, and they're getting a lot of good things accomplished. Jerry is not here, obviously, but Assuming there'd be no further questions, if so, is there a motion?
Motion?
Ben?
Second.
Karen? Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is carried. We're gonna move on to committee reports. Start with you, Bob, please.
Okay, I have a resolution authorizing extension of service agreement with Eastern Rensselaer County Solid Waste Management. You want me to read through the... Whereas Eastern Rensselaer County Solid Waste Management Authority manages MSW programs, recycling programs, household hazardous waste programs, and education programs. And whereas Eastern County Solid Waste Management Authority service agrees are all coming to an end in the next 3 months at staggered times for their number of communities. And the Eastern Rensselaer County Solid Waste Management Authority Board of Directors has determined that due to large projects currently in progress, that it would be in the best interest and the benefit of the member municipalities to extend their service agreements for 1 year to further pursue these projects. And whereas the Eastern Rensselaer County Solid Waste Management Authority service agreements would remain unchanged to the current agreements, and whereas it is necessary that the contract by and between Eastern Rensselaer County Solid Waste Management Authority, herein called the SQUAMA, and the Village of Hoosick Falls be executed.
It's a lot of whereases.
Whereas,
So cut to the chase, they want to extend it
right.
another
that's
12
it.
months at no increased cost.
That should-
Okay, we need to get a resolution on that.
Motion.
Is there a motion for that?
Motion.
Second? Okay, we'll do a roll call. Kevin?
Trustee Downing,
Yes.
trustee Sprague,
Yes.
trustee Patton.
Yes.
Trustee Donato,
Yes?
Ryan,
Yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that resolution
Okay.
is
I
passed.
I got an email on the electronics. They will no longer pick up televisions or CRT monitors for no charge. So what they're gonna start doing is they're gonna charge for TVs. When they take them to the transfer stations, it'll be Steventown, Hoosick Falls, and the town of Schaghticoke that'll be affected. They have the prices here. Cathode Ray 2 televisions less than 27 inches will be $10. Cathode Ray 2 television more than 27 inches up to 36 will be $20. Cathode Ray 2 televisions 36 inches or more, including wood consoles and projection TVs, would be $30. So they're gonna start charging them. He tried to hold them off as long as he could, but the guy says he's losing money, so
Okay,
they're gonna have to start
When does this start?
right now, because he said to go ahead and start charging, so.
okay, so starting for us, it would be Saturday.
Right.
Okay.
Now, if I could have those rates, Bob, to post on the village website, it'd be good. Do you know if they might have like one grace day a year or something like that, where they might do that? Or,
For,
you know, for,
yeah, they do have the recycling setup programs where you can take stuff and
right,
they do it, I don't know, they do it at Schaghticoke. The problem is they do it at Schaghticoke, Nassau.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna
Right.
see if they can start doing it locally, if they can start bringing it this way.
that would be good.
I'm gonna ask them to see if they can set something up so it'll be a lot easier so people can. Because you have to go to Nassau, Schaghticoke and all that stuff.
well, anytime we have that information, obviously pass along so I can get the word out to the
Okay.
public, because, you know, now that there's fees involved with this, naturally the concern is that somebody will just find some place in the woods to go dump it, instead of paying the $10, and that's not gonna solve any problem, so.
They won't.
Okay. And this would probably be a good time to mention that the transfer station is open 2 days a week. It's always open on Saturdays, holidays excluded, Christmas and such. But on Tuesdays, it's open from 8 to noon, and that will go until the first weekend in December.
Right.
And then after that first weekend in December, it will be closing until we open up again in April. But just on the Tuesday, it's still open on Saturday. Okay?
And before we move on, I'd like to say one other thing, that thing we talked about earlier, yesterday. I hear from people occasionally, why am I recycling? I watch the truck, they put both bins in the same truck. They're clearly, everything's going to the same place, why should I bother recycling? So you know, had a theory about this, and I checked with Bob, who was our contact with County Waste, and the truck has separate compartments. Both bins go into the same hopper, but there's an internal mechanism that the driver can flip back and forth to put it into proper compartment inside the truck. So it is being separated, and I do encourage people to recycle. If you ask my wife, she'll tell you I'm a rabid recycler. I'm fanatical about it, and I encourage other people to do the same. It may appear on the face of it that it's all going to the same place, but it's not. We have confirmed that.
If you actually watch the truck, you can see the guy flip it.
Yeah.
Because every once in a while, they'll
Kids-
come on like a Saturday and I watch them and you see them flip the
Kids
thing.
love them.
Yeah, the kids love
The
it.
kids love watching them.
Okay. All right, anything else, Bob?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Karen?
I sent Denise an email asking her if you want to get together next week on that check verification.
Okay.
I haven't heard back from her yet, though. Okay. But
Yeah.
hopefully next week.
Okay, thank you. Ben?
Just an update on the cable merger between Time Warner Cable and Charter. They were projecting that the takeover would close before the end of the year. It now looks like it's going into the first quarter of 2016. There's a lot of regulatory stuff that the government still has to get through. And that's why Comcast's bid when they tried to take over failed because of regulatory pressure. So just an update, we'll be receiving more information as we go forward. And we'll pass that along as I get it. We don't have anything this month, but just there was an article in the New York Times just a few days ago talking about the takeover. Once that happens, they'll be the second largest company, and that's probably what's slowing it down because there's a lot of stuff that they have to get through before they can fully take it over. So just so everybody's up to date.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Rick?
Just a couple of Greenway things. We have a new surface on the bridge. The project is not done. They do need to come back and work on some structure underneath. While they're doing that, we've talked to one of the representatives of the DOT to see if they could put some lights
Yes.
underneath the bridge to light that section of the Greenway Trail, and to also maybe widen that section and reconfigure it a little bit, just to make it a more pleasant place to walk through, especially if you're walking in the twilight hours. And we think we're probably going to be able to accomplish that. No confirmation yet, but we're working on it. And that's about it.
Also had a complaint about people bringing the dogs down and not picking up after the dogs.
That's an ongoing complaint.
That's on. We talked about that at the last meeting, and again, we reminded people that we do have a leash law, and that the trails are village property, and that will be enforced. And that people need to realize that if they're going to allow their dogs to run loose, they have to be responsible for them, and they shouldn't be allowing them to run loose. We've had more than one situation where someone was bitten, so it's not a good situation. And then we obviously talked about picking up after your dog as well. So I believe Deb was able to get that into the Eastwood Press. We
Yeah, I
had a
couldn't put it on the it wasn't
that page? Well, we want to keep reinforcing that because it is a question of safety as well. Okay, that it for you, Rick?
That's it.
Okay, Bob?
A couple things. As far as the highway, everybody has a report, but I wanted to make sure everybody's aware that leaf pickup is going to be done by November 20th. So if you haven't got them done, please get them done. And again, reiterate not to put sticks and branches and stuff. Please just put leaves in there because it's only going to jam up the vacuum. It's going to be a longer time. It's going to be a lot of delay.
No grass clippings either, right?
No, just
Just
leaves.
leaves.
Just leaves. And secondly, I told Dave earlier, but I did the annual court audit. I did it from January 1 through 5/31, which completes our fiscal year. And I have done from June 1st to September 30th. So we didn't have the October report when I did finished the audit. So I'll give that to you, Ann. So that's the official audit we've done. And everything is in good shape as far as the audit is concerned. The only issue was in March with the sudden passing of Judge Whalen. The dockets were, as far as the finances, were a little bit messed up, and they've been caught up and squared away since Judge McClellan has taken over, and that's all. That was all done with the state controller's office, so everything's good with
Okay,
that.
good.
There's a couple issues as far as the T-sled report not showing up on Holly. Holly's not able to get that on the computer. She was contacting motor vehicle back. They've been communicating back and forth trying to get that squared away. It's a software issue.
Okay.
So, and other than that, I think that's it. Other than I just want to commend Chief Ash and his officers on what they've been doing over the last few weeks and the last month, I should say. It's not easy work, like Bob said, and you know it's that doesn't go unnoticed, but is unappreciated by most of the people. You know, they think the cops are the bad guys, the cops are the good guys. So I just want to stress that.
Is Neil out there? Is Neil around somewhere?
He's out there.
He's hiding? Neil, I got a question for you while we're on the highway thing. Is the leaf vacuum down? Oh,
You just today.
okay. Because I saw him yesterday. I saw him.
Fourth ward, we just finished up in first ward, so
Okay.
Thursday we start back up in fourth. And
Okay.
we got
No, because I saw him working on the top of Classic Street yesterday when I went to work. When I came back, Classic Street was halfway done, so I thought something might have happened to the machine. Okay, as long as it's still working.
Neil, I have one question for you as far as the chips. Do we have any anticipation of how much revenue we're going to get from the chips money yet, or no?
the last thing I've seen, maybe, I think it's 120,000.
120,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's
Anything
all I
else,
have.
Bob?
No.
Okay. Kevin?
Received some correspondence from Grandma Moses Properties. As you remember, we had rights to the signs. They claimed we owed them $500 and produced the contract, and in fact, we paid all the money, and so we took care of that.
Ah, okay.
They said they only copyrighted for 2 signs, and in fact, we did for 3.
We did for 3, right. Right. And that's for 10 years, I believe.
10 years, right?
Yep. Okay. Good. Thanks for following up with that.
Yep.
Anything else?
We had the Walter A. Wood Tractor Show back in October.
Yeah.
Participation was down a bit due to the weather, but we had a lot of people coming with interest in Walter A. Wood and tractors, so we hope to do that again next year.
All right.
One
Great.
thing I want to mention as far as that tractor show goes, coming up in Greenwich, they have a nighttime tractor, a lit parade,
Right.
which seems like it's pretty interesting. That might be something that you want to add to that show, particularly if it's going to become its own event. I know that the parade that we had, the
Halloween.
yeah, the lit, no, not the
Yeah.
Halloween, the lit parade there, the illuminated parade was a pretty neat little thing.
And they're looking to expand that
Right.
next year, so it could be something to talk about.
Yeah.
Sure.
We also took up donations and purchased 2 Walter A. Wood machines, which we hope to display somewhere in the village.
Oh, great. All right.
I just wanted to say that we were out at the state fair in August, and one of the buildings had quite a nice selection of the Walter A. Wood information and stuff out there. One of the barns, which I thought was great, being out in Syracuse having stuff, back towards here. So I don't know if that'd be anything that they would be, willing to maybe move as an exhibit to Hoosick Falls for the time that you're doing it next year. It might be worth calling them and asking.
Yeah, check it out.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Okay.
Ben?
That's it.
That's it. All right. Thank you. Going to move into old business. The first item in old business, we have the highway garage engineering report, and it says Ken Facine right after that. You will recall that last spring we authorized a report, an assessment to be done on the village highway garage, and little, if any, work, other than some very basic work, has been done on the garage in the last 30 years since it's been built. So we had an engineer take a look at it. He gave us a proposal, and I'm probably going to get it mixed up, but I think for a brand new garage, starting from scratch, knocking the old one down, starting from scratch, was right around $1 million. Taking the current garage and taking all the bad stuff away from it and basically leaving the shell was somewhere around 940,000, was it? 940. Not a big difference. However, and everybody saw a copy of that report. We do need to do something. A couple of weeks ago, I received a phone call from Ken Facine, superintendent of our schools, and he had seen the report in the paper about the highway garage, and he also has some work that he needs to do on one of their garages. I don't know which one. But he said there are some grants available where schools and municipalities together could apply for the grant and would provide the funding for both garages. He asked if we'd be interested in pursuing that. I told him that I felt that the board would be very interested in that. He was going to pursue that with the school board as well. I've asked Bobby if he will follow up on that as we go forward. I would like to have the consent of the board to actually move forward on this, to at least explore it. We haven't applied for a grant yet or anything like that, but just to explore it and see what's involved with that. So can I ask for a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Ben, second Bobby. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion's carried, so we'll explore that.
Yeah, so do you want me to reach out to Ken, or is he gonna reach out to me, or?
I'll get back to him with a copy to you so that we can make that
Okay.
connection. I
All right.
know he wanted to bring it up at the school board, I'm just not sure of the date on that.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, all right. The floodplain law status. We submitted a draft to DEC, which was required. The village attorney submitted that. They want, I think the final time that we have to make a decision on in terms of passing that law and updating it is in January, I believe. They wanted an early copy because they need to review everything 100 times and look at all kinds of things. So that has been done. Village attorney tells me that that process has been taking place. The update in the floodplain law, for the most part, were all recommendations that DEC and FEMA made. They were changes in the wording, things like that. But the board will have the opportunity to look at that. I don't know if that would be in our December meeting, John, or if that would be the January meeting. I'm not sure the time
I
frame.
would suggest you put it on for a
Public hearing?
public hearing with the intention of passing. So I would suggest that before it goes in the paper, you should be aware of the fact that DEC is, they like it just the way it is. And if
Okay.
they change it, we gotta go back to them, and then they don't want to do that.
Okay, so we'll set that up for next month then in terms of public hearing. Any other questions on that? Okay.
Set it up.
Oh, we need the motion for the public hearing. Right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Rick, second?
Second.
Bob, thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All
That'll
right.
be our regular board meeting, Dave.
Yeah, yes. Yep, we'll do that. Okay, next item, Greenway Trail signs. Just want to let people know. And Neil, you still out there? You haven't run away? I want to make sure that we did get those trail signs up, the directional signs. Okay, so you will be seeing signs throughout the village, arrows, hopefully pointing in the right direction in terms of where the trailheads are. And we may be doing more of those as time goes on, but we've had a number of people come through the village asking where the trail was, the north trail, the southern trail, so hopefully this will make it a little bit easier for folks. And we are still waiting to hear on a grant that we have applied for. It's a little early yet. Hopefully by next month's meeting, we will have heard something in terms of funding to do a number of things for on the trails. Okay,
Can I make a quick suggestion about the trail?
sure.
I've never even put too much into it, but my son and I like to go to the snow hole. Probably everyone's familiar with that. One of the fun things is in the beginning, the book that you sign.
Oh.
And he loves to go back and, hey, look, Dad, this
You
is
ever
when we
think about
signed
that?
it,
No, we
last
haven't,
year.
but I,
So it might be, again, he really enjoys it. And, the more we can get the youth involved in this, the more of
Yeah.
an asset it becomes.
That's a good
idea.
good
That is a
suggestion.
really good idea.
We've got a Greenway Committee coming up on the 1st of December. We'll talk about
cool
that.
idea.
Yeah, nice idea. Thank you. Okay, next item, permanent snow emergency signs. I know, I said the word. But we, actually at the suggestion of a village resident last year, we purchased a number of permanent signs. I believe all of them have been put out, Neil. Are we current with those?
Yeah, we're still putting some up.
Okay, still a few to go, but you'll start to see those. Unfortunately, it is that time of year. The signs will be going up. We need to make sure that during snow emergencies that people move their vehicles. The police department will be enforcing that. Okay, so thank you for your cooperation when it comes to that. Okay, water restriction status. Jim, can you give us an update on that?
Dave, being the time of year that it is, I had a little conversation with you yesterday. I believe that we should go ahead and just lift it.
Lift the water restriction.
Yes. The consumption is down this time of year. Wells have only recovered between 2 and 3 feet. I'm hoping that we get a lot of rain and snow soon.
Ah.
Everybody wants that.
Snow emergency signs.
Who's hoping that?
But at this present time, I just want to lift it for now.
Okay, so the recommendation is to lift the water restriction. Do we need a motion on that?
Why not?
Why not? All right. Is there a motion?
Motion?
Ben?
Second.
Karen, second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion's carried. We'll get a notice in the paper on that.
I already told you.
Okay. Yeah, make sure you let those guys know. All right, thank you. The American House. Everybody, I'm sure most people are aware that the American House, that the American House needs to come down before it falls down. This has been an extremely lengthy process, not by choice, but by law. Due process and all of those kinds of things. So, excuse me. So we are proceeding. Mark, could you give an update as to just where it is right now?
The application has gone to the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor?
Yep.
Okay, and did you make contact with the guy there? And he hadn't seen it yet.
Yep.
This was last week. He hadn't seen the application that had gone in, but they were gonna be looking for it. So, once that's the application for the variance, that has to do with how we're going to proceed and obtain estimates. So once we've heard from that, then we'll be able to move forward and actually put it out to bid to do it.
Okay. Okay.
Has it been officially condemned?
Yes.
Yes.
That was part of the application process. It needed to be.
Do we anticipate it coming down? What's the time frame, Mark? I know it's all
Next
pending on all this.
That's on, yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of. When we get that rain and snow Jim wants, this one's coming down.
Man, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, this is our first time experiencing this and going through this process for all of us. I mean, I'd like to think that it's gonna be down sooner rather than later, but I can't say that. I mean, we have, Neil called me a couple weeks ago because some of the bricks from the chimney, on the Spring Street, that side, the railroad track side, had actually fallen and a couple of bricks had made it as far as the road.
We are hopeful that the building will be taking the building down prior to heavy winter, heavy snow. We need to get it down.
I just wanted the time
Unfortunately,
frame.
it is a very difficult process. Our plans are to have it down this winter
It's a
before
waiting game
snow.
right now, probably a lot of.
It is, then it'll have to go out for bid
Right.
and those kinds of things, and then it'll have to be done. But we're gonna work through that.
I just have a quick question.
Yes.
Because I live in the second ward.
Could you just give your name, please?
Kristen Westerman.
Thank you.
I live in the second ward and I am sick of seeing it. I don't want to look at it anymore. I hate it. But you've put like some sort of thing around it. Can we at least maintain that? Because now they're just streamers blowing in the wind. It looks worse than it did before. So it's dangerous and an eyesore. So I'm just hoping.
little of
and
both.
also in addition to that, I'm not sure what the process is, but maybe there's a way to expedite it because it's becoming a danger. So it's probably a financial danger and a lot of things, right? So maybe there's a way to expedite this process. I'm not sure.
Well, there really isn't at this point. We're going as fast as the law will allow us to.
Right.
But as far as, the caution tapes and such, yes. Neil? You still here, my friend?
Sorry, buddy.
He's up.
Okay, he's up there.
And the rest of the signs.
He's going for the tape right now.
Well, I'm just saying though,
Yep, no, we
let's
need
just
to
not
get
make
that
it worse
done.
than it is.
Yeah.
It should be maintained, you're right, as
Yeah.
far as.
And no one should, now that the building has been officially condemned, no one should be going in, no one should be sticking their head in through the window to take a peek or anything like that. It is just dangerous. Stay out.
If it is that dangerous, they can't expedite it to make.
If we could, we would have, believe me. we would have.
No, I know, but I mean,
But
now
no.
it's getting even more so.
But in terms of the process that you're working on now, sorry, I don't come to these meetings
Mhm.
very often. I'm not really sure what the process is. But maybe there is some sort of expediting process in terms of, I know that in a lot of processes, if there's something dangerous or something like that, there's a way to expedite things. Especially with if it's a government thing, I'm not sure.
Yeah, the
Maybe
word
just something worth
the
looking into,
word
that's
government and expedite, the two don't necessarily go together. And I'm really, we will look into it, but I can assure you, we have gone through everything. So we're going to continue to push with
We
them.
can't do any more than condemn it, right? I mean, at this point.
Right.
I mean, I know a little bit about, I guess the only way to really expedite it would be if it caught fire. And
Okay,
then-
we're not going there.
No, I'm not saying.
We're not
No,
going there.
I didn't come with him, I'm not with him.
Okay. I know a guy that owns a demo company, and that's how it. I mean, if it caught fire, then and if it was a risk like Doherty's, it was torn down the next day.
Mhm.
So, really, I mean,
Mhm.
and that just gets more costly.
Right,
I mean,
and
you're talking about
unfortunately,
130,000, you're gonna talk
on
about
that
200.
same vein, if a large section of it had
Yeah.
come down onto the street, it would be down the next day as well.
Yeah.
Right.
We will follow through and we'll get it done as
No,
quickly as
I'm
we
not doubting
can.
you, but you know, in my job, I do work with the U.S. government, I work with U.S. Customs, things like that, and there are certain situations where things can be expedited. So I'm just saying, if it's worth looking into, we should. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We'll do that. Okay, any other questions about the American?
I think what he was saying was light a fire under him. Is that what you're saying?
No,
he's going with your point.
Don't.
I mean, in just
Okay.
in terms of
Trying to help the guy out here.
accountability.
Yeah, we're moving.
No, I didn't mean that. Just in terms of accountability, sometimes you think
Okay.
that you can't rush things,
Right.
but maybe there's a way to expedite things. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Next item, Railroad Avenue parking status. And this is something that we had discussed at the previous meeting, and we asked the board to, during the interim, to take a look and see what we wanted to do. Village attorney had put together a draft on a law to change the parking. In the meantime, the police chief has also spoken with the railroad police. And Chief, I think you have an update on that?
Contacted railroad police, they did some research, they say it's no problem to post their side of the road, which would be the east side, with no parking signs as well as with no trespassing signs, as well as the turnaround area down below, turnaround only. They'll provide the signs, actually they were headed up, I told them to hold off. Officer Murphy from the railroad police contacted me the other night and said that this is where we stand. I felt that we needed to discuss it here first to make sure that everybody's on board with the situation, and then the only question, he was gonna come up and meet with me as to if we are writing tickets for trespassing or parking on the pavement, et cetera, do we write them under railroad? And if so, what's their section, or do we write them under the village ordinance? So we're gonna meet with that, and I can talk to John about that as well, so, I think it's a good thing, it might take care of some of the issues that we have going on there. I'm sure there's some pros and cons of both of them, so. we're gonna
Okay,
answer those questions.
so if those, just to recap a little bit, if those signs were put up on the east side, on the track side, there would be no parking allowed on that side
There'd be no parking allowed on that side,
for the entire length of Railroad Ave?
correct, all the
And
way down.
you mentioned something, about a turnaround, I wasn't clear on
Down
that.
below,
Down
at
below.
the end of it, there's a turnaround area
Oh,
there.
okay.
That's
Oh,
fully
okay.
on the railroad property.
Okay,
It's all railroad property, so it's federal.
okay, all right,
So going back, Rob said that just call him when we're ready to go, or any other questions that we have.
okay.
And then we'll make arrangements as to who's gonna put them up. Neil's name keeps on popping up here. So we'll have to talk to Neil about it to see if that can be done, and make sure that, our attorney says it can be done by our people as well. That might be a legal question as well, that we may have to have answered.
Yeah,
Whether
we'll have to
we're gonna-
double check that. But it's good that the railroad responded so quickly. I think the chief is being commended to get them to
Quite amazing,
come forward with
actually.
information so quickly. I
Okay.
really-
Now, we had a question before about parking. Ron, would you?
Yes, my brother has a house on Railroad,
Yeah.
and I
Thank you.
was just wondering, what is the reason why you would not want to have parking in front of your house? As you know, all the houses are very small plots of land. The houses were built before automobiles, all the lanes are narrow, there's really no parking available. And my brother would like to state that, he pays his taxes, and he's wondering why his right to park in front of his house is being taken away.
It's not his property. It's railroad property, and you cannot park there. I'm telling you, if you didn't have so many people going in and out of that house and so many cars there, we wouldn't have had a problem. I'm telling you right now. We don't need it. I have to get emergency vehicles down there. I have a daycare down there, a state daycare center, and I have to keep that open at all times.
Well, it's a town.
But
Is it?
I'm
Can I
telling
say-
you,
can
the
I ask
people
you a
you got
question?
living
Can
there.
I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, it's a town road, obviously it's
Village
narrow.
road.
It's not a town road, it's a village road.
Village road.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think one of the issues that we have going on there, and you're right about parking. What's your brother's house number?
I think it's 107.
That's 107.
It's the duplex. It's a two-story, two-family house,
Right.
very little driveway. I just can't imagine, if I wanted to go work on the house, where would I park? I used to park out in front, just off on the shoulder.
I think
As a practical matter, I just don't understand the whole
Okay,
impetus to.
let the chief just finish what he was starting.
this is not just one person's issue, okay? It's an issue, I think, that affects everybody on that street. And not just the one person or everybody on the street. It affects emergency services as well, trying to get down that street for whatever reason it may be. We've had difficult times getting down there at times because of the parking situation. 107 is the one on the right just before you go down the hill. right?
Exactly.
Okay. Please don't take it as constructive criticism. There's a lot of vehicles that are parked there that are being worked on, that have been being worked on from 1 week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks, that take up parking spots. There's a lot of people coming in and out of there that are visiting, that taking up parking spots. Maybe when they come down to visit, they can go down and park and walk down. So they're consuming a number of parking spots there, and I don't know what the ordinance is for the village ordinance on parking, but I know if it's 2 cars to each unit or one, I'm not quite sure. That would have to be a question there.
What about the possibility of designated parking? If somebody was blocking the road, that would be a traffic infraction. I just don't understand why.
One of the problems that we're having with that is that, especially in the summer, the growth takes over that dirt spot there, okay, and pushes it out onto the road.
Right.
So people start parking closer and closer and then further and further onto the road. That's the problem. We're having a difficult time trying to go to railroad and say, hey, can you cut back the brush there? They're not gonna cut it back. And it's not the responsibility of the village highway to cut it back. So
Well, it just seems, to my mind, that the road is, just not effective. It should be wider, like a normal road.
Again, we'd have to negotiate with the railroad. They own the property. We can't widen the road on railroad property.
Well, I wonder how wide of a road does the village own? It's,
Believe it or not, the railroad owns all the way to the middle of that road.
so,
From what we've looked at, right?
Right, it does.
So technically, they could tell you not to park on the east side of the street if they wanted to, because you'd be partly on their property.
Well, just-
They're not saying that.
okay,
I'm
just from
saying
the
it from
average
theoretically.
homeowner's point of view, they're saying, oh, I pay my taxes.
Oh, I understand that. Yeah.
Why can't I park on my public road? And it just seems like you're just a blanket
well, if you did
action.
park on the public road in front of your house, let's use that for an example, where would you park? Other than on the road?
Well, it's the shoulder,
Okay,
Now
in
you
front of
say
your
it's
house or on the railroad side?
on the railroad side.
The railroad is saying they don't want people parking there no more. And they have that right to say that. So that means now you can't park on the east side, you would have to park on the west side. And parking on the west side would put you just about 3/4 or not, if not the whole road.
It just seems to me that there should be parking available for a house.
Then I think
What if somebody's grandmother wanted to visit, they have to take a cab to get to the house, or?
There is
And
a
again,
driveway there.
there is a driveway
The
there.
tenants are not utilizing the driveway. I'll
Go ahead.
speak. My name is Cheryl Downing, and I live at 111 Railroad Avenue, which is right next to this particular property. I am the owner-operator of the New York State Daycare, and I have, on a regular basis, almost on a weekly basis, at least once, if not twice, had to contact the Village Police Department because the road is literally blocked, because the road is narrow, and they were not using the shoulder, which was railroad property, get off the road. I do have pictures which I forwarded to the board members because I actually had a surprise inspection from New York State. And at the time, right after my inspector left, the road was literally blocked by a truck and a trailer at that property. So there was absolutely no access. And I have been sworn at, I have been yelled at, I have had things done to my property because I have asked them not to block the road. It is not only an issue for the daycare because I am responsible for maintaining the safety of my children at all times. It is an issue as far as emergency. If there was a fire down there, we can't get the fire through. I did have my mom at my house one day with a broken femur. The rescue squad actually hit the telephone pole because the rescue squad could not get by because the garbage cans were out that day. So it's a very narrow road, and if you are not in the road traveling, you are on railroad property. And unfortunately, the tenants that are in the property next to mine do not have common sense. They do not pull off the road. They constantly block the road. I've had pictures which I've sent to the chief and to the board members, and it's just not acceptable as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, again, I understand people pay taxes, but I have a driveway. I have to maintain my driveway. We have a number of vehicles, and what do we have to do? We have to coordinate. If somebody's parking behind the other car and you need to get out, then you have to coordinate to go out and move the vehicles. That driveway on that particular property that you're referring to, you could fit at least 3 cars in that driveway, and there is space out back by the garage. But they're choosing to only put 1 vehicle at a time in that driveway.
There might be enough room for two vehicles in the driveway, but barely enough room for somebody to walk by the 2 cars in the driveway. Like I say, it's an old property, dates way back, and that's probably why the railroad owns to the center of the village road.
I'm sure, but
It
again,
seems to me that as
for
a
health and
taxpayer,
safety, we can't be blocking a road on a daily and weekly basis.
if the
Okay,
road is blocked, it seems like it would be.
I'm going to interrupt right here at this point.
Okay.
I think your points are very well taken. I think you've represented your brother and what the concerns would be. I think this is not a one car or a one event issue that's been brought up. We've had the highway department take a look, we've had the police department take a look. There are some concerns about it. If we could magically make the road wider, but we can't do that. The railroad is saying they don't want people parking there. We need to make it so that the safety and the emergency vehicles and the people that live there can get in and out. So right now, what we have is the railroad recommending they want to put have signs put up for no parking. And then if people park there, then the police, and correct me here, Chief, but if people do park, once the signs are put up, they would be ticketed and possibly towed, okay, to keep the road
I
open.
mean, we'll go to the people and ask them to move the car. I mean, we're not gonna be in there just ticketing them just to ticket. We'll go and
Okay.
ask them to move the car, and hopefully, over a period of time, they'll understand that they can't park.
Okay.
They're also, though, keep in mind, they're gonna put no trespassing signs up as well. I just wanna throw that out because
They don't want people walking on the
they don't
tracks.
want them over in that area as well. So anyone who might be
Okay.
parking, that thought about going down the park to do a historical walk along the tracks, they're saying no to that as well.
Okay.
So they can't park down at the end of the.
So at this point, just for clarification for the board, and John, if you could just clarify as well, we're not proposing a law to change the parking on that particular street
Correct.
because the railroad has stepped forward.
They have. The only thing, just to be sure, let's double check. In terms of putting up I can tell you that the no trespassing signs, they certainly have the opportunity to do that now with any further action for us. That's their property. Our people would not be able to do that. As far as the no parking signs, I'm going to double check that only because that implies a governmental authority to be able to regulate. I want to be sure that's the case because there's no sense of having the signs put up The people have to, if the police have to write tickets, I want to make sure that that's okay. I want to double check.
So you'll do that and then get back to us and let us know?
Yeah, you sure will.
So, Chief, we need to hold on notifying the railroad until we can get a,
Well, that's what he said. Yeah,
clarification
we're
here.
gonna have to confer a little bit more. I want to go down there also. I've been down there once. So I want to go check it out again.
okay.
Any final word I'd like to enter is that this seems like a total imposition on the homeowner and his rights and the value of the property. I mean, it just seems like this doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, that'll be duly noted, and we appreciate your comments. Okay, any other questions on that? Good? All right. Next item under old business is an update on the water status. We have some guests here this evening from St. Gobain, Phil Guy and Kurt, sorry, Molian, from CT Mail. Okay. You will recall that I want to say in July, might have been June, but I think it was July, St. Gobain made a presentation here in terms of their decision, if we could, folks, in terms of their decision to do some sampling, both water sampling as well as ground and earth sampling. We've had individuals ask about the results of that sampling, and Phil and Kurt are going to give us the results this evening.
All right. Let's see, we'll try to do here to make this a little bigger. Good evening. Thank you very much, Mayor, for inviting us and the board. As the Mayor was saying, I was here and Kirk as well. Actually, first off, my name is Philip Guy. I'm from Williamstown, Massachusetts, and I'm the business manager for St. Gobain here in Hoosick Falls. I've been with St. Gobain. I've been at this facility now for 22 years. So I started working up there in 1993, so it's been quite a while. So again, thank you for inviting us this evening. Here with Kirk. Kirk is from CT Mail. He's an engineering firm who's working with our business. I was here back, I think it was July,
okay.
Second week of July. At that time, we talked about a plan that we were putting together to do some testing of the water, the groundwater and the soil at our facility at 14 McCaffrey Street. And at that point, we said we'd come back and tell people about what we found when we did that testing. We finished that testing up in October. We have the results. We've been working closely with the village, with the state, with the regulatory agencies that we work with on a regular basis. So I just want to take you through first on what we did, and then tell you a little bit about the results. And then after that, just talk a little bit about what the next steps are after this. So first off, I just wanted to kind of reset a little bit because maybe some people weren't here the last time. I'm sure there weren't as many people the last time I was here. But this is great to see everybody. I'm glad everybody could come out. And just talk just quickly about the situation about St. Gobain. St. Gobain purchased the McCaffrey Street facility back in 1999 when it was part of Furon. So St. Gobain acquired that facility back in 1999. Products that we manufacture at that site include PTFE films. PTFE, a lot of people might know those as Teflon. I'm not supposed to use that name, so don't tell DuPont I use that name, all right? But PTFE is just Teflon is a type of PTFE product. And we also make silicone rubber products. And they go into many different applications, lots of electronics applications, lots of medical applications, a lot of alternative energy. You're talking about solar cells and wind energy, even a lot of aerospace, wiring cable. There's a lot of different products and a lot of different industries that product shipped all over the world. We have never manufactured PTFE polymers, nor PFOA. So we are a fabricator of plastics. So we buy those PTFE products from our suppliers and we fabricate those into other shapes and sizes and forms. The PTFE that we purchased from those suppliers did contain PFOA until 2003, when we ceased to use any of the PTFE that has PFOA at the McCaffrey Street site.
So we have not used that chemical, that PFOA chemical, since 2003 at McCaffrey Street. So we had a testing plan, and maybe Kurt can maybe go through that a little bit again on what we were doing for testing.
Thanks, Bill. Like you said, we started our planning early this summer in July, and in August we were in the field conducting our investigation. What we initially did was come up with a conceptual plan relative to site geology, groundwater. We looked at various sources of data regarding subsurface conditions. Ultimately, we picked 5 locations to drill within the site. We essentially came up with 2 upgradient monitoring well locations, and that was to look at groundwater coming onto the property, and then 3 downgradient monitoring well locations below the plant, so that as the water moves across the site, we could evaluate what the water quality was as it moved past the plant, and as the water came onto the site, we would evaluate that quality as well. So these were the 5 locations selected. We had some thought that there was an upper aquifer and a lower aquifer. We did find that condition in the 2 upgradient wells. We didn't find that condition at the downgradient monitoring wells, excuse me. Generally, we have an aquifer there that is consists of sand and gravel and groundwater movement essentially from the northwest to the southeast. The depth of the wells are a little deeper up top here because we're on a mound. We're a bit lower, maybe 20, 30 foot lower down here. These wells were a bit shallower. So from an evaluation standpoint, we want to capture and be able to assess all the groundwater moving across the site, not just at one location, but at several locations. So this is essentially what we did in August.
Okay, if you remember, we were looking at, we did 3 distinct sampling plans at that point. We first looked at the soil samples. That was the first thing that we did. And then we did groundwater sampling right away, and then we did another groundwater sampling to confirm those results about a month later. So, and again, we were done with these all in about October. So first, let's talk about, that's just the map again that you've seen up there, the 5 different areas. So the soil sampling results. So we did about 0 to 2 feet, one depth, and 2 to 4 feet, another depth at all 5 of those different wells. The MW means the monitoring well, so they line up with the numbers that you see up here. And as you can see, there's a US EPA residential soil screening level of about 16,000 micrograms per kilogram. So that's about parts per billion, 16,000. And in most of those samples that we saw, the values were they were all in the single digits. I think the highest one that we saw in the soil was 4.1 micrograms per kilogram in the soil itself. So again, and that was at monitoring well number 4, which is in the bottom right corner down there. And that was at the 0 to 2 foot depth. So from a soil perspective, we saw some levels of PFOA, much lower than what we'd seen, what you see in the US EPA residential soil screening level. Next, we went to the groundwater. Groundwater, we did, like I said, 2 sampling rounds. The first round, they were about a month apart. And what we're looking at in terms of, there's some advisory levels. There's a US EPA drinking water provisional health advisory level, and that's at 400 nanograms per liter. Nanograms per liter is a part per trillion. So it's at 400 parts per trillion. And there's also a New York State Department of Health on unspecified organic contaminant criteria. These are long. So again, we looked at all 5 of the wells. When you see an S, like an MW-1S, that means we looked at the shallow aquifer. If it doesn't have the S, it's the deep aquifer, which was sometimes between, I would say, 20 to 30 feet below the ground surface is where we found that deep aquifer. So in the shallow, as you can see, there were some non-detects at the shallow on the number 1.
It's right here.
And the second round showed a small amount in that shallow one, at 60 parts per trillion. Then we went to monitoring well number 2, which again is an upgradient from our facility. We had higher levels on the shallow well, 1,100 parts per trillion, and then the second round came up with 750 parts per trillion. Then we looked at the deep aquifer, and at monitoring well number 1, again on the up, there was a non-detected both times that we looked there at monitoring well number 1, so there was no PFOA found at all. And then we went to monitoring well number 2, again an upgradient, and here we found a higher level of PFOA at 18,000 nanograms per liter. And we checked that again about a month later, and that also confirmed that sort of a level at 17,000 and 16,000. We did a split sample at that point just to make sure there wasn't any testing differences. So we took the same sample and sent it, I think it may have been to 2 different labs, or they were tested separately, just to confirm to make sure we're getting the right data. And then the down gradient wells, as you can see on monitoring well number 3, is now this is if you look at the flow of water underneath our facility, that's where it would flow to. We have a level of 5,300 and 4,200 in the first round, and then 4,300 in the second round. And then MW4, which is even further down gradient, we had a first reading of 1,700 and 1,400 when we did, again, that duplicate type of testing to confirm the testing results. And monitoring well number 5, which is actually the one that's closest to the river, I think, was 580 and 570. So again, all these concentrations are in parts per trillion, and as you can see, there is, we are confirming that we see PFOA in the groundwater underneath our facility at 14 McCaffrey Street.
And while that's up, can we talk about that?
Let me keep going, and then we can talk a little bit about, I can flip back to it afterwards, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. So, really getting to the gist of the matter. We've seen PFOA on our property. Saint-Gobain is a business that really cares about its employees. It cares about the health of our employees. It cares about the environment. It cares about our community. We're really committed to this community. We've been here for a long time. Saint-Gobain's been in the business for a long time. You get there by being committed to community, people, and your business. With that strong commitment to the village of Hoosick Falls and to the environment, health, and safety, I've been given the authority to come to the board and present to the board that we will provide funds for a carbon filtration system for the village of Hoosick Falls, to provide a system that we feel that, based upon some studies that have already been done by the village, will take the PFOA levels down significantly below the levels that are under the advisory from the EPA. Some tests have already been done along those lines, so Saint-Gobain is committing the funds to do this. Along with that, we're also putting forward a plan to pay for temporary carbon filtration if that's possible. So if we can put on a temporary carbon filtration system in the interim, then that is something that we will do as well. There's still a lot of engineering work to be done with that. There's a lot of regulatory work that needs to be done with that in terms of permitting and making sure it's the right system and things along those lines. So we don't know if that's possible to do that, what the short term would be on that either. So we're looking at those options as well. But I'm just saying that Saint-Gobain at this point is committed to the village to pay for that temporary solution as well. And thirdly, Saint-Gobain is committed to paying for drinking water for village residents, people on the village water system, through bottled water in the interim period between the time from now until we can get a filtration system on, either a temporary filtration system on or the permanent solution onto the village water system.
How would you implement that?
This is something we're going to be, really it's going to be, the village is going to be taking the lead on putting the carbon filtration system in, rather than, it's not something that we could do. We're more going to be there from the funding aspect of things.
I mean, the drinking water, you said bottled water or whatever, how would you?
Again, we'll work with the village on working out the logistics. This is fairly new, and we've got to work all of those details, but really looking for the village to help out with the details along those lines. So that's really what I had to say here today. And I just want to reiterate that Sankabon is a business that's committed to its employees. We've got a couple of hundred employees over there. It's my responsibility to take care of those employees in terms of their health, safety, and environment. We're on the village water system as well. We're committed to this community. It's a small community. A lot of the people who work in our facility all live in the village as well. And I'm proud to work for Sankabon because the company has stepped up, and we've been working on this for a long time, working hand in hand with the village board, with the mayor, on trying to come to a solution on this and figure out what we can do to make things better in the community going forward. So that's what I had to present today. Does the board have any questions on that? I'm really presenting to you guys because I promised I'd come back and tell you this. Yeah.
Do you have a theory on why well 2 was the one that had the highest contaminants in it?
It's really, I mean, at this point, it'd be all just speculation at this point. I really don't have any theories on why that would be contaminated. We're really not sure where that came from. No.
Can I ask if you have a theory on why the soil samples were less than with the water samples? Would that insinuate that the stuff wasn't airborne, that it got into the ground some other way?
Again, I think I'd be
Just speculation.
speculating at this point. So until we really do any sort of analysis along those lines, it'd be speculation. But yeah.
What's the cost of the carbon filtration system?
There have been some
Estimated, of
estimates.
course.
I mean, estimates that have been put out there.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, but it's significant. It's a significant amount of
Okay.
money. I think that the village has looked at that. You probably have an answer to that better than we would, right?
Well, the initial figure that we had when we did our engineering study that we submitted for state funding grants and such was $2.1 million. That was just for the filtration system. So it's an involved process.
Let me just make sure the board is all set first here.
One of your slides at the beginning, you were going through the amounts, and it seemed like next slide. It seemed like all the amounts went down, except for well 1, which went from a 1 from 0 to 2 to 2.4. Is there a reason why that skews higher and the other ones seem to skew lower?
I would say not. I would say at that level, maybe Kirk, I think we're getting into very small.
Statistically, these
Yeah.
really aren't, we're talking parts per billion,
Mm-hmm.
so very, very, very small numbers.
Yeah.
But 2.5 versus 0.67.
Well, what I'm talking about is the other one, which went from 1
Yeah.
to 2.4,
Yeah.
which seems like a lot. So I'm just curious why
Actually
the
not,
other one
but-
seemed to go down and that one
Yeah.
went up. That's all.
Anyone else from the board?
Well, 1 had nothing detected, correct?
Nothing detected in the groundwater. Correct. There was in the first, but in the deep, in the aquifer, in the deep.
Are there any questions from the audience? Joe?
So, just so you know, it was roughly a year ago we sat in here and this was talked about, and this is a massive improvement, and we're very happy to see it. Well, at least I am. I can't speak for everybody. As I looked into one of these systems for my house, I was told I was going to have to change the filters probably every 5 months, and it was pretty expensive just to do it at my house. I can't only imagine what it's going to cost here.
Mhm.
Now, the plant being built, again, temporary situation, awesome. Where will we be on filter costs going down the road?
We have a number of things that we're still discussing, and that's one of them.
Okay, so those 3 things that you had put up, the temporary plant, the new plant, the water for the community, there's more still being
Yes.
talked about.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I'm not
Okay.
going to get into the detail of those because we're still in the discussions, but I will say that they've been very positive discussions to date, and they continue to be very positive, and I think they're going to be resolved in a timely fashion, very timely.
So those 3 are right now.
Those are commitments. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm committed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's potentially more to come.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Awesome.
Anyone? Yes.
I think my question sort of ties into yours in that I'm wondering about the longevity of a permanent solution and how that works. So, in other words, if you make a permanent solution, I I'm surmising that this won't last forever, and how would that work? Because this problem, I'm assuming, just doesn't go away. It will take, it's a long-term situation. So I'm just saying, like, the permanent solution, how do we do, when this thing croaks or it's 20 years into it, because
To explain a little bit about it, the GAC filtering needs to be recharged. It will become contaminated itself over a period of time, and we've talked to some experts on this we sent them some of our water. They tested various GAC alternatives, came up with the best solution for us.
Right.
And I don't know off the top of my head what that is,
Right.
but it's shorter than a year. So let's assume that every year we have to recharge these things. That's part of the process.
Or even just the permanent solution. I'm just talking about longevity. Eventually, this long-term solution will have to be replaced or dealt with or something, I'm assuming. Just like any kind of mechanical item.
Sure, it would be updated as you go forward.
Yeah.
I think the key component here, though, are the filters. And what we're trying to say is that over a period of time, and we don't know exactly how long yet.
Yeah, I realize
We've been
that.
given estimates.
Yep.
But we've been told to probably look at about a year anyway. Could be a little longer, could be a little shorter.
Yep.
Those filters have to be switched out. They can be cleaned. I don't understand the process.
I realize that. I realize what you're saying.
But when they're pulled out, others go in.
When we talk about permanent solutions, I think we should be thinking about long range too.
Well,
Make
that's
sure
what
that
this is.
everybody's
This
protected.
is a long-range solution.
Yeah. I'm just here to,
Right,
live in the
yeah.
town and be interested in the water that I drink too. Yeah, so.
Yep. Yes.
So Sigbane's responsible for the funding of this to put it in. Now, are they responsible for the life of this? Say 10 years down the road, Sigabane goes bankrupt. Who pays for it then? The village taxpayers?
Well, we would be looking at that, but that's still under consideration and under discussion.
Was it 350 years?
Yeah.
It's our 350th year.
351, you mean, and then down? No, sir, that's a very good question. That's something that we're looking at as well. And if you look at our current water plant or anything that's done, and the company that comes in and does that, and maybe they're around for 100 years, maybe they're not. But then someone else is going to be doing that. I think a key component in this is that this is proven technology, and we all agree that this works. We've talked with all of the experts. It's worked across the country, it's worked in other countries, so that we know it works, and we know it works specifically with our water. So that's the plus. By changing out the filters, that'll keep that fresh and clear. Obviously, there'll have to be ongoing maintenance, just like there is now in the regular plant and in the wastewater plant. So you have to, plan ahead for that. But we're talking about that as well. It's all part of the discussion. Anyone else? Yes. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Kevin Allard, I'm looking at your PFOA concentrations, and I'm not surprised about the concentrations on 2 or 3 because of where your treaters were in that facility and the prevailing westerlies. So that I would expect to be that contaminated. 4 I would expect to be monitoring well a little bit more contaminated. But I'm surprised at that. We learned at the town board meeting that there is property outside the village of Hoosick Falls that has tested positive for PFOA in their water. And the Department of Health is working with that. So actually that level of contamination is a lot further than what that map shows. Okay? So I'd like to know how that's going to be addressed. And the level of contamination on those soil samples right there only shows just around your facility. I would expect those contaminations to go higher as you move out, because as that plume came out, it should be higher. Right down from that, we have a Little League field. We have a Hoosick Misses softball field, and we have a football field. And it'd be nice to know if that soil is contaminated or not also. I think we have a right to know that. What you have done is an excellent first step. Okay, and it is, I'll tell you, because not many companies would come forward and do what you guys did, or would come through here and make a presentation the way you did. There's not many that would do that. They would say, take us to court. So I applaud you guys for that. I think that's an excellent first step, and it's an excellent gesture towards the community. But now we need to see the second step. And from the Department of Health that is sitting right here, We need to know who you tested outside the village of Hoosick Falls and outside the perimeters, so that we can know what that map is, to know how far that contamination goes outside the village of Hoosick Falls. Based on where that contamination is, I would say you guys need to start looking out towards Hill Road and start going down Hill Road and out that area, and not 22.
We have.
Oh, and again, this is news to
Well, I
everybody.
mean, this is, we saw this presentation 2 weeks ago at the facility, and we were hoping to get a copy of it so that we could put together a more comprehensive map showing the big picture.
Okay, so can we expect you guys to be making a presentation at the town board meeting showing your results?
That would be up to the village to invite us over and,
But you're testing outside the village.
well, the town.
I think the point that's
We
being,
have the town supervisor right here somewhere.
I
He's right there.
right, we have the building inspector right here today.
He's always the town supervisor.
And he's always the
elected.
building inspector. The man wears 2 hats.
That's good.
State Health Department has been very involved in this process. They will continue to be involved, and they are planning ahead to look at that. I don't think they're in a position at this point to talk about the details,
I'm
but
fine
your
with that.
point is well taken, and we are looking, you used the term plume, we are looking to see how widespread that is, and if it goes beyond the village, then obviously those discussions will be taking place as well.
I just want you to know that we are talking to the town supervisor, and we do have a plan to do more testing of private wells.
Okay.
Not just, the 22 corridor, but all around to see
Okay.
whether, which way is it going.
Okay.
As far as the results too, we have a private, people, these are private wells, and, we have to be careful too about
Yeah.
letting everybody know the results.
Okay.
Because property value, that type of thing, they might have concerns about.
And they should.
Yes.
And they should.
No, Kevin, I can assure you, everything that you brought up has already been talked about. This has been ongoing, and again, I would like to reiterate, the Department of Health has been way ahead on this.
Well,
as,
here's
as
my
far
concern.
as far as doing all the things you've already asked for.
Until last night, and it was on the town board agenda. Most of the public did not know the Department of Health was out there testing outside the village of Hoosick
Again, it's a
Falls.
privacy issue, Kevin. If they're
Okay,
testing
but if
privacy,
my-
what
if my
private
property-
wells.
If my property borders a piece of property that's contaminated, don't you think we'd like to know it?
But you do know it
I
now.
think we do know it.
Plan is in place.
I think it's.
And
What's
that's
that
what they're
plan?
gonna, what Tim just said, they're going to be, we're not gonna get into the specifics of it, Kevin. We're not gonna get into the names and addresses at this point, but the Department of Health is planning to do that. And the privacy issues, the people need to know themselves before something like that is made public, and that's what they're gonna be doing.
Have you submitted anything to the town of Hoosick, any correspondence at all?
Yes.
Yes, you have.
Yesterday, I sent Mark a list of,
The letter?
an email
An
and a
email.
map
There we go.
showing locations where we.
You know that's
want to
foilable.
test. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay,
Um,
you had, Joe, did you have something?
Kevin, just to confirm, there were no addresses on that, just locations of where they were going to be
There's no
testing
privacy
in terms of this
If-
general
if
area.
there's no names and no
Right.
addresses, there's no privacy issue.
Again,
Yes or no?
I don't, the testing is being done. If you need any more information beyond
No
that,
answer.
I don't understand it, Kevin. That's all I can say to you.
Okay, let's move forward. Yes.
So what I'm wondering is given this new piece of information, maybe we can consolidate the proper information in one spot so that we're all able as a community to educate ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of, I think that this and I think that that, but it's not factual. So if it's possible, if we could consolidate that, I know that at the town website is a very good resource,
Mhm.
and potentially maybe we can just do that, and I think that's very helpful for everyone because it's very scary.
Sure.
As you can imagine.
Almost certainly.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, and we've talked about doing that, and we'll start to work on that, definitely.
Yeah. And how can we get a timeline on that? Because I think it's good for I'm an accountability lady at work, sorry. But for accountability factors, how can we set up a timeline and think about when can we get these things posted online and able to have people be educated about this? Because I think that's helpful. It tones down the fear,
Mhm.
and it tones down the speculation and all these kinds of things. So.
Well, I think we're always looking for folks to help us with that. If you'd be interested in helping us with that, we would really like to see that. We could put together a timeline. We would work with the town. We'd look at all the different social media sites so we could get all the information out there and make it available. I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, I'm willing to help organize
Okay,
that.
great. Thank you.
Now I have to go.
Yeah. See,
Please
that-
erase my name from everything.
I know you said you didn't want to get into all the things specifics being negotiated, but with probably every negotiation ever, a party walked away saying, "Boy, I wish I would have thought of that."
Yeah.
So, is there an email or is there somewhere where us, the community, can say, "This is something I'm concerned about"?
Okay.
You know, I'm sure you guys have thought of a lot of things, but again, afterwards you may go, "Oh, what a great idea! We didn't think of that one."
I think we could do
That's
something
great.
on one of the, either the Facebook page or the website, put something up there, what thoughts would be.
Mhm.
Sure,
Great.
Or
sure.
A public hearing before a settlement is voted on?
I'm not sure that we need a public hearing to determine whether or not the village board is going to accept this or not.
It'd be
Okay.
a great way to inform the public as to what.
It certainly would be, and there are other ways to inform the public as well. And I think we're going to look at some of those. We want everyone to be advised here that what's been proposed tonight by Phil and Kirk has not been formally presented to the board. Again, we're not finished with all of our discussions, all right? But we are looking at all of these things. I think, Joe, that's a good suggestion in terms of, two heads are better than one kind of a thing. Let's make sure we've got everything looked at on all of those. And we will go forward with that. We've also talked about doing an information night where we may want to have different parties come together and have as much information about this with more specific timeframes and things like that. So that's certainly something we could put together as well and try and do that. So that's something we'll definitely be working on.
My recommendation is not to use Facebook, is
I-
to use a real forum in terms of accountability. Facebook is a social networking site.
Okay.
Probably not the best
I
place
try very hard not to
use
read it,
them.
so I am not an
No,
authority.
I'm just
So-
saying, there's probably a better way to do that.
All right, we'll
I
look at
totally- I
that.
totally agree with
I
that.
totally agree too.
Question.
Yes. Came here tonight not intending
Would you
to
just
say-
give your
I
name,
will.
please, and who you're
My
representing?
name is Dave Engel. I'm an attorney in Albany, and I've been working with a group that was formed here in the village called Healthy Hoosick Water. Dr. Martinez is the chairman of the group, and we've been working together pursuing a resolution of this matter. So, to the point of everyone who's interested, all the stakeholders being involved in bringing this to a resolution, we met last week with representatives of St. Gobain. We had a very, very useful meeting, I thought. And in fact, the presentation tonight suggests to me that maybe that meeting was a little more productive than I had first imagined. It's gratifying to know that the cost of bottled water is going to be covered on a going forward basis. Just to provide a little background, I've been doing this kind of work as an attorney for longer than I care to think of, about 40 years or so. Spent a fair amount of my career with DEC, but I've been handling cases involving groundwater contamination all over the Northeast and well beyond that over the course of my career. I think this is a situation that certainly is susceptible to a reasonable resolution with an appropriate settlement. We have indicated to St. Gobain what our concerns are. They were very forthcoming in discussing things with us. They brought people from the highest level of the company up to our offices in Albany last week, and those were productive discussions. The devil is always going to be in the detail, and I think the mayor alluded to that. Sort of the grand picture that has been, provided here tonight is very useful. Things such as design criteria as to the treatment system itself, how the long-term financial arrangements are going to be set up, are all matters that have to be addressed. And whether there's going to be any follow-up to all of this with respect to the possible health effects associated with PFOA exposure is yet another issue. As a firm, we've already worked on PFOA exposure matters involving human health impacts before we got involved in this. And there's a fairly robust body of literature out there that addresses the various health effects, none of which should be taken lightly. So we've developed, I think, a useful relationship. We're going to stay involved, and hopefully sometime very shortly there will be a settlement in place that will satisfy the concerns that we have. And I think everybody should know that it's not just me, Dave Engel, a lawyer, or Dr. Martinez, and I think having known Marcus now for several months, he's one of the finest people I've ever had the privilege to meet and work with. But we've brought in environmental toxicologists, some of whom are, well, now some of them, all of whom have national reputations. We have an environmental consulting firm working with us, and we're going to stay on this till we get this thing resolved in a way that looks out for everyone who has to deal with this. And of course, the people who are on the village water system go beyond the people who live in the village. There are people who live in the town as well. And so there are a lot of stakeholders in play here, and we're going to stay at it. So, we look forward to working with everyone. It's the first time I've met Mr. Guy, and first time I've had the opportunity to see the mayor in person. So we're looking forward to staying involved and seeing this thing through to a final resolution.
All right, thank you. Phil, did you have anything else? Or
No,
Kurt?
again, I just want to thank the board and the mayor for letting us have the time to come and talk to everyone here. And it is an ongoing discussion. This isn't, we're not just done here with this presentation. We're going to be looking at what we have to do for the future, because we plan on being here for at least another 350 years. So. All right. So,
Good.
thanks very much.
All right, thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm sneaking over here.
Huh? Disregard the lady with the camera. Okay, we're gonna move on to new business. And I'm asking for a motion to forward Rensselaer County Board of Elections a list of polling places for the March 2016 village election, which would be here, the municipal building. So is there a motion?
Motion?
Ben? Second. Rick? Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carried, thank you. The next motion is for the tax relevy. We have overdue outside water and sewer services. These are for people who live, please. These are for people who live in the town outside of the village, but who have outstanding water and sewer bills, and we want to forward that on to the town so that we can then collect those funds through the county tax relevy. The amount, as you can see, is $39,791.30.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Bob, Kevin, second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Where'd Dan go? Dan, you still here? Okay. Yep.
How can you miss him?
All right, well, that's that orange shirt. You can see that orange shirt. Okay, this actually we should have gone over last month, and it just slipped through. My fault. Dan had requested to replace a blower. We had two quotes for the blower. This is for the wastewater treatment plant. One came in at $2,606. The other came in at $2,700. I gave Dan the okay to go forward for the $2,606. It was something that we needed to get done, and you've gone forward with that.
Already resolved.
Okay, that's great. So we need to formalize that here.
I don't wait when you say go.
He's learned. So I'm asking for a motion to cover that.
Motion?
Ben, second.
Second.
Bobby on the second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. And I'm looking for a motion to go into executive session, and we're going to discuss contract negotiations.
Motion. Second.
Bob, Ben, second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. We're going to go into executive session. It will be an informational session. Yeah, I know.
No further business.
We won't be taking any further business after that. Was that yours? That was your question?
I know, but I'm good. That's my question.
All right.